When you're ready, sir.
I'm Michael Gilmore, and this is a presentation to display and investigate the determinants and behaviour of effective coaching in the context of meeting the needs of young people. In this presentation, I'll investigate the three learning outcomes. The first learning outcome is demonstrate knowledge of the determinants of an effective coach. This is important for a coach because they need to know. Well, a coach needs to be able to be effective for the athlete, otherwise it's pointless the athlete having the coach because they won't be able to progress and perform better. The second learning outcome is present, evaluate and interpret the principles of behaviour in current coaching practices. And the final learning outcome is evaluate the needs of young people as they participate in sport. So firstly, what is coaching? I've actually got a definition from the International Coach Federation. They describe coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximise their personal and professional potential. I do tend to agree with that, but I would more like to break it down to changing behaviour. Because I believe changing behaviour is important because it is how you would affect the athlete's decision making and what action they choose in a sporting scenario. And also, what is a coach? The coach is a person who coordinates this process with a team of athletes. So what makes an effective coach? A coach needs to be a leader, first of all, and there's quite a few different leadership styles. The first one is autocratic. An autocratic leadership style is where their decision goes. There's no input from anybody else, it's all what the coach says. An advantage of this is direct, so everybody knows what they're doing, there's no debate about it. I think that's really good in situations where there's not much time, so you need to be making quick decisions. I think a good example of that would be a football substitution. Although a manager would have input from an assistant manager and other coaches, he's the one who needs to make the decision quickly because a match is only 90 minutes and he needs to change the game. The disadvantage of an autocratic leadership style is it doesn't allow for creativity from whether that be participants, athletes or coaches, because there's no input from them on their decision. The second leadership style would be democratic, which is totally the opposite. It is a democracy and everybody has a vote and an opinion into what, maybe that be tactics or picking a team. An advantage of this is it allows everybody to be feeling valued within the team, and also going on from the autocratic leadership style, it does create creativity, so everybody has an input. But I think this is more suited in training circumstances, maybe during the week if it's a football team, because they've got lots of time to listen to everybody and practice those new ideas or opinions. There is another leadership style which is called laissez-faire, but I believe that there's no positives to that, because the coach needs to be a leader. If I had to choose between autocratic or democratic, I'd probably choose a bit of both. Like I said, during a game scenario, if I was an effective coach, I'd like to be autocratic in the game scenario, whereas in training I'd quite like to be democratic and listen to others. Mainly due to the time factor, so that's why I do that. Another thing is philosophy. An effective coach needs to have a philosophy, because a philosophy is basically what a coach stands for and why they got into coaching. It's what they believe in. So a coach needs to have one of those. And it's important to have direction and set clear goals in their philosophy. So the philosophy that they have will have an end aim of what they want to achieve. So some football managers have a playing style philosophy, and they will know what they want to achieve by the end of that and how the team plays. And philosophy is also, every coach has a different philosophy. No coach will have exactly the same philosophy. Everybody's individual. That's what I like about it. Another vital trait for an effective coach is good communication. This is paramount for an effective coach. It is vital to communicate with the athletes, as they need to know what you expect from them. The quality of communication also impacts on the performance of the individuals, as if it's better communicated to the athletes, they will understand what they need to achieve and what the coach is required from them. The quality of the communication can be determined by how the coach adapts to changing situations and different individuals. A good example of this is the football manager needs to know each individual player and how to communicate with them. Because some players can be more difficult than others, you know what to say to others, some might need an arm putting around them, some you might be able to tell them off and they'll be okay and fire them up. An effective coach will acknowledge these variables and influence their athlete or athletes appropriately if successful to improve and maximise their performance. So we're on to learning outcome 2, which is present, evaluate and interpret the principles of behaviour in current coaching practices. One of these is discipline. Discipline, it can improve behaviour significantly because it introduces punishments for bad behaviour or breaking of the coach's rules. Now this has I think it has a positive effect on performance. If everybody is working towards the same rules, everybody knows that if they break the rules, the consequences of that, and this can lead to much better, well-behaved players, more professionals, that they're going to bed on time, so they're more well-rested, they're not drinking, they're eating better. So I think that's going to have a better impact on fitness, which is only going to be better for their performance. A good example of this is Sir Alex Ferguson used to encourage all of his players to get married early and settle down with the family, just to so stop them having late nights and going out partying with girls. And I think on the Class of '92 film, Ryan Giggs actually explained the story where Sir Alex Ferguson went round to Lee Sharp's house and caught both of them with just before they were going out. And I think they had training the next day, and they had some girls around, and basically he put Lee Sharp into some private accommodation that was sorted by the club, so he got his house took off him because he was going out and partying too much. And everybody, he's well renowned for his discipline, Sir Alex Ferguson, and this has obviously impacted their performance. I don't think it's solely the factor of his success, it's just a key ingredient of his success. A downside to having discipline can be it creates fear factor amongst the coaches, athletes. This can cause anxiety and a negative impact on performance. Another principle would be motivation. There's two types of motivation, that can be extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic is where an athlete is motivated to perform a behaviour or achieve a goal in order to earn a reward or avoid a punishment from an external source. So one of these sources can be the club, the media, friends, family, and stuff like that. The reward can be money bonuses, so in football they have like goal bonuses, so that can encourage a striker to score because you're getting a financial reward at the end of it. New contracts, so if you're playing well you're going to get a new contract, so that could be a wage increase, more job security. And as well sponsors, so if you're a bigger, better player you can attract more sponsors and more money revenue. So a lot of extrinsic rewards, mainly financial rewards. Intrinsic is the other one, intrinsic motivation. This is where the athlete is motivated to perform a behaviour or achieve a goal because it is self-rewarding, usually performed for the sake of it rather than for an external reward. I think the main example of this would be personal pride. So an athlete is wanting to do well and achieve well because it means a lot to them inside, and their pride is involved with that. It's important to know what type of athlete you are coaching and what motivation suits them best. So if you know one of your players prefers external rewards, he's more financially motivated, then an effective coach will need to know that. And the same with intrinsically. However, it's hard to intrinsically motivate somebody, but it is possible. Usually only the best can do it. So the best coaches wouldn't need external financial rewards to motivate their athlete. They can change an athlete to intrinsically motivate themselves. I think it's more powerful than external extrinsic motivation, because deep down athletes got into sport because they love sport, not because of the money that was involved. That's just happened along the way. So I think if a coach can intrinsically motivate their athletes, it's going to be a lot better than external. It is important for an athlete to feel loved and reminded of their talents will motivate them. I think a great example of this is when football teams sack their manager halfway through the season, after like 10 games or something like that, so they're really low on confidence. A new manager comes in, it's only a short period of time, so they obviously can't change any tactics or way they play. They might change a few players, but it's a short space of time that they've got to turn it around. So I don't think they usually have an upturn in results. So I don't think any of that is to do with, I think it's all to do with motivation rather than the change in any sporting tactics or philosophies of ways of playing. A good example of this would be recently Crystal Palace have signed Neil Warnock. Alan Pardew's come in, it's exactly the same players. He's signed one new player and he's won 4 out of 4, whereas previously he won 1 out of 7 games. So I think that's just reinstalling confidence and motivating the players, like putting an arm around them and making them feel loved. There's also goal setting in terms of motivation. Goal setting works in an industry as a motivation technique. This is because the participants have a reason for doing something. It can be difficult to motivate an athlete without a goal, as they have no purpose to perform. So basically this can be in terms of football again. A manager saying at the start of the season, I want promotion, I want the league title, I want this cup, I want us to survive relegation. However, it is important for their coach to know if it's a realistic goal. So if you're managing a mid-table relegation team, you can't be asking them to win the title and cups and everything like that. So it's got to be realistic, because once that is achieved, if it is realistic, the confidence of the team has got to go sky high and obviously better performance. Yeah, again, set realistic goals, because when achieved, confidence will be boosted. So learning outcome 3, evaluate the needs of young people as they participate in sport. When working with youngsters, a coach needs to recognise the needs of each individual. So one of the needs for the young kid, I think the main need is why they get into sport, is fun. They get fun and enjoyment out of sport. So a coach needs to recognise that and make sure they're providing that need for them. They should consider what the athletes need in order to continue participating, such as fun and enjoyment, or winning, or physical progression. So some children get into sport so they can physically progress, get better, get fitter, get bigger. The coach must be smart in the goals they set, as they must know the capabilities of the group or individuals. So we don't want coaches setting too high progressions for young kids, because you've got to be patient with them. You might need to allow for their body to progress before you start setting some goals. The coach can't start demanding trophies from a team who is incapable of winning leagues and cups. If this happens when the goal isn't achieved, it can be demoralising and have a massive negative effect on morale and future performance. So if the coach sets some expectations too early that are too high, then this is going to have obviously a negative effect on the team. specialising too early. The coach must understand the physical maturation in teenagers. They may be the same age, but they are all developing at different speeds, and this will affect training methods. I think this is most apparent in teenagers, under 13, under 14, under 15s. So some might be growing up towards 6 foot, where some might be at the bottom end of 5 foot still, because they're all developing at different times. Positive is specialising too early. If specialising pushed on children early, we may see developed athletes sooner than normal. And if this happens, then obviously the child becomes more valuable and can be a source of income to be sold on. Like we've just seen with Real Madrid signing a 16-year-old player. Obviously, he's been coached to be specialised very early. And obviously, the earlier the athlete is in their life, like 16 to 18, the more valuable they become to a club because they've gone out there for a long period of time. And obviously, a lot of teams are trying to specialise very early because it's a great source of income. That's why we see big clubs investing in 12 to 18-year-olds with sums of money which are ridiculous compared to their age of their athlete. They do this because they are scared of missing out on something special, like the next Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. Some negatives of specialising too early. On the downside, by specialising with young children too early, it can sap the fun out of the sport. So if you're getting too tactical or too technical, then the fun drops out of the game.
Okay, Michael, I'm going to have to ask you to get to a conclusion for Learning Outcome 3.
Yeah. I believe that we specialise too early. I think the reason for the participation drops out when we become too technical. So a lot of youngsters are wanting fun and enjoyment out of the sport, and a lot of teams take that out of the sport too early because of specialising.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.